I was sitting in my home office in Phoenix, Arizona, responding to work emails when my doorbell rang 3 times in rapid succession, which immediately told me this was not going to be pleasant. Opening the door, I found myself face to face with Patricia Henderson, the president of our Sagebrush Hills Homeowners Association, flanked by 2 other board members I recognized as Linda Martinez and Sharon Wu. Patricia was clutching her ever-present clipboard like it was a holy artifact, and her expression suggested she just discovered I was running a meth lab out of my garage. "Vincent Donnelly," Patricia announced, as if I didn't know my own name. "We need to discuss an urgent matter regarding the upcoming HOA meeting this Saturday." "Good morning to you too," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "What can I do for you?" Patricia's lips thinned. She was in her late 40s, with blonde hair cut in that aggressive bob that seemed to be standard issue for HOA board presidents across America. "The community center's heating system has failed. The repair won't be completed until next week, but we cannot postpone Saturday's meeting. It's legally required for our quarterly review." "That's unfortunate," I said, genuinely meaning it. January in Phoenix might not be Minnesota, but evening temperatures still dropped into the 40s, and the community center was a concrete box with terrible insulation. "We've been going door to door," Linda chimed in. She was slightly less intimidating than Patricia, with worry lines creasing her forehead. "We're asking homeowners if they have portable heaters we could borrow for the meeting, just for a few hours." "I heard you have a nice portable heater," Patricia said, and there was something in her tone that made it clear this wasn't really a request. "Susan from 3 doors down mentioned seeing it on your patio last week." I bit back my first response, which would have been to point out that Susan needed to mind her own business. "I do have a portable heater," I admitted, "but it's actually the only one I have left." Patricia's eyebrows shot up. "The only one left? What happened to the others?" "I donated them," I said simply. "Donated them. To whom?" This was where it got interesting. "To the community center, actually, back in November during the fundraising drive for new equipment. I donated 3 commercial-grade portable heaters, the kind that can heat a large space. Cost me about $400 each." The 3 women exchanged glances. Patricia's expression shifted from imperious to confused. "That's impossible. I've been president for 2 years, and I would know about any donations of that magnitude." "I have the receipts and the donation forms," I said. "I submitted them to Barbara Chen, who was coordinating the equipment fundraiser. She even sent me a thank you email on behalf of the board." Sharon spoke up for the first time, her voice uncertain. "Barbara did coordinate that drive, but she moved to California in December. She was our secretary. The transition was a bit rushed." "So you're saying you have no idea where 3 expensive heaters that I donated are?" I felt my irritation rising. "Because I specifically bought commercial units that could heat the community center during situations exactly like this." Patricia's face flushed. "I'm not saying anything except that I have no record of this donation, and regardless, we still need a heater for Saturday's meeting." "Will you loan us yours or not?" I crossed my arms. "Let me get this straight. I donated $1,200 worth of equipment to this HOA, equipment that has apparently vanished into thin air, and now you're demanding I loan you my personal heater." "We're asking, not demanding," Linda said quickly, shooting Patricia a nervous look. "It sounded like a demand to me." I kept my voice level. "And until someone can explain to me where my donated heaters went, I'm not inclined to loan out my only remaining one." Patricia's nostrils flared. "Mr. Donnelly, this is about community cooperation. As members of this HOA, we all have responsibilities to support each other." I supported the community to the tune of $1,200 3 months ago. Where did that support go? I'll look into it, Patricia said stiffly. But the meeting is in 4 days, and we need heaters now. I'm sure this is just a paperwork mix-up. Then check the paperwork and find them. Barbara sent me a confirmation that they were delivered and stored in the community center's equipment closet. Sharon pulled out her phone. I have the key to the equipment closet. I can check right now. Do that, I said. And when you find 3 commercial portable heaters with my donation tags on them, you can use those for the meeting. Patricia opened her mouth to argue, but Sharon was already nodding. That's fair. Linda, come with me. We'll go check right now. After they left, Patricia remained on my doorstep, her jaw clenched. You know, Mr. Donnelly, there are rules about being uncooperative with board requests. Show me the rule that says I have to loan personal property to the HOA, I countered. Especially after donating $1,200 worth of equipment that mysteriously disappeared. Nothing has disappeared. This is clearly a filing error. Then it should be easy to resolve. Have a good day, Patricia. I closed the door before she could respond, but I could feel the anger radiating through the wood. Patricia Henderson was not someone who took well to being dismissed, and I knew this wasn't over. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Sharon Wu. Vincent, we checked the equipment closet. The heaters aren't there. What do you mean they aren't there? I mean they're not in the closet. We pulled everything out. There are some old folding chairs, some holiday decorations, cleaning supplies, but no commercial heaters. Nothing even close. I sat down at my kitchen table. Sharon, I watched the delivery company drop them off. Barbara confirmed receipt. They had to be signed for. I believe you, Sharon said quietly, but they're not here now, and Patricia is very upset. Patricia is upset. I'm the one who's out $1,200. I know, I'm sorry. This is a mess. Barbara handled a lot of things that weren't properly documented before she left. Her ex-husband got a job in Sacramento, and she had to leave very quickly because of the custody arrangement with their kids. She handed over a bunch of files, but some things might have fallen through the cracks. 3 commercial heaters don't fall through cracks. They're not paper clips, Sharon sighed. Can we come back and talk? Patricia wants to figure this out. Against my better judgment, I agreed. 10 minutes later, all 3 board members were sitting in my living room, an awkward silence filling the space. Show me the documentation, Patricia said finally, her tone marginally less hostile. I pulled up my email on my laptop and showed them the entire thread. The initial request for equipment donations. My response offering to purchase heaters. Barbara's reply with specifications. The receipt from Home Depot showing 3 commercial-grade portable heaters purchased on November 12th. The delivery confirmation to the community center. Barbara's thank you email sent on behalf of the HOA board, complete with the official letterhead. Linda read through everything twice. This is all legitimate. Barbara definitely received these heaters. Then where are they? Patricia demanded. Did Barbara take anything with her when she moved? I asked. Just her personal items and files, Sharon said. But I helped her load her car. There were no heaters. 3 commercial units would have been obvious. Maybe they were sold, Linda suggested hesitantly. Patricia shook her head. I review all the accounts. There's no record of any equipment sales in the past 6 months. Could someone have stolen them? I asked. The 3 women looked at each other. Patricia spoke carefully. The community center is locked and only board members have keys. There's been no sign of break-ins. So either they grew legs and walked away or someone with a key took them, I said bluntly. That's a serious accusation, Patricia said. It's a serious situation. $1,200 of equipment is missing. Sharon was scrolling through her phone. I have Barbara's new number. Let me call her. We waited while Sharon stepped into my kitchen to make the call. I could hear her voice, calm and explanatory, then a long pause, then more questions. When she came back, her face was troubled. Barbara remembers the donation clearly. She says she stored the heaters in the equipment closet herself. She put them on the back shelf, along with the extension cords and the instruction manuals. She said she mentioned it to Patricia during their transition meeting in December. Patricia frowned. We had a very rushed transition meeting. Barbara was leaving the next day. We covered about 50 different topics. I don't specifically remember her mentioning heaters. Did you take notes? I asked. Of course I took notes. Patricia's defensiveness was back. But they were scattered across several pages, and some items were marked as pending follow-up. Can you check your notes? Patricia pulled out her phone with obvious reluctance. She scrolled for what felt like forever, her frown deepening. There's a note here. December 15th. It says equipment closet inventory needed, verify donations. Did you verify the donations? Linda asked. I assigned that task to. Patricia trailed off, her face going pale. I assigned it to Derek. The room went silent. I didn't know who Derek was, but clearly everyone else did. Derek Thompson, Sharon asked quietly. Yes, he's our facilities manager, was our facilities manager. He stopped showing up to meetings in late December. I've been meaning to formally remove him from the position. Why did he stop showing up? I asked. Patricia set her jaw. There was an incident. We discovered he'd been using HOA funds to pay for personal expenses. Small amounts, but definitely inappropriate. I confronted him about it, and he stopped responding to communications. Linda leaned forward. Patricia, if Derek had access to the equipment closet and knew there were expensive heaters in there. He wouldn't steal from the HOA, Patricia said, but she didn't sound convinced. He'd know we'd notice eventually. Maybe he thought he had time before anyone checked, Sharon said. The heaters were just sitting there, and with Barbara gone, there was no one to track that specific donation. I felt my anger shifting from frustrated to furious. So some guy embezzled HOA funds and then possibly stole my donated equipment, and you came to my house demanding I loan you my personal heater. Patricia had the grace to look ashamed. I didn't know about the donation. If I had known, I never would have approached you. That's not really the point. The point is that your lack of organization and oversight has resulted in the theft of equipment I donated in good faith. We don't know for certain it was Derek, Linda said. Who else had access? I challenged. No one had an answer for that. Sharon broke the silence. We need to contact Derek directly, ask him about the heaters. I've tried calling him, Patricia said. He doesn't answer. Do you have his address? Yes, but I can't just show up at his house making accusations. I stood up. I can. He didn't steal from you, he stole from me. I want my equipment back or I want reimbursement. Patricia held up her hand. Let me handle this appropriately. I'll send him a formal letter requesting information about the equipment inventory. If he doesn't respond within 48 hours, we'll take further action. Further action like what? I asked. Like filing a police report, Patricia said reluctantly. If there's actual theft involved, that's a criminal matter. File the report now. 3 commercial heaters didn't evaporate. Someone took them, and the most likely candidate is a guy who was already caught stealing from the HOA. Patricia looked miserable, but she nodded. I'll need copies of all your documentation, the receipts, the emails, everything. I'll send them to you right now. What's your email? After I sent the files, the 3 board members left, their earlier confidence completely deflated. Patricia paused at my door. I'm sorry, Vincent. This should never have happened. Make sure you find out what did happen, I said. And maybe implement better oversight procedures so it doesn't happen again. After they left, I sat on my couch feeling drained. I'd moved to Sagebrush Hills 2 years ago, attracted by the well-maintained properties and reasonable HOA fees. The neighborhood was a planned community on the north side of Phoenix, with about 200 homes arranged around a central park and community center. I'd never had problems with the HOA before. I paid my dues, followed the rules, and generally kept to myself. The donation had been completely voluntary. When the HOA sent out the fundraising notice about upgrading community equipment, I'd actually thought it was a good cause. The community center hosted events for residents, including a monthly game night I occasionally attended and a summer movie series that was genuinely fun. Buying heaters had seemed like a worthwhile contribution. Now I was $1,200 poorer with nothing to show for it. I spent the rest of the day trying to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to the missing heaters. That evening, I decided to do some investigating of my own. I pulled up the Sagebrush Hills HOA Facebook group and started scrolling through posts from the past few months. It didn't take long to find references to Derek Thompson. There was a thread from December where someone had asked why Derek wasn't at the meeting, and Patricia had responded with a vague comment about board restructuring. Several residents had commented that Derek had always been helpful with maintenance issues. Then I found something interesting. A post from January 8th, less than 2 weeks ago. A resident named Michael asking if anyone knew where to buy commercial heaters for a good price, because he was opening a new automotive shop and needed to heat the garage. 3 comments down, someone named Jennifer had replied, "Check Craigslist. I saw someone selling commercial heaters last week, pretty cheap." I opened Craigslist and searched for commercial heaters in the Phoenix area. Most listings were old or overpriced, but then I found one posted on December 28th. 3 commercial portable heaters, barely used, $800 for all 3. The post didn't include much detail, but there were photos. My heart rate picked up as I zoomed in on the images. The heaters were the exact model I'd purchased. Same brand, same color, same specifications. And in one of the photos, visible on the side of one unit, was a white label with black text. I couldn't read the text in the photo, but I knew what it said. When I donated the heaters, I'd put labels on them. Donated by V. Donnelly, November 2024. The seller's name was listed as DT Phoenix. I took screenshots of everything and immediately called Sharon Wu. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Sharon, it's Vincent Donnelly. I found the heaters." "What? Where?" Craigslist. "Someone posted them for sale on December 28th. The photos show the exact model I donated, and you can see part of my donation label in one picture." "Are you certain?" "Absolutely certain. The seller's username is DT Phoenix. Would those be Derek Thompson's initials?" Sharon's breath caught. "Yes. Oh God, yes they would be." "The post is still active. That means he probably still has them, or at least he did a few weeks ago." "I'm calling Patricia right now. This is actual evidence. Send me her number. I want to be part of this conversation." 5 minutes later, my phone rang with a group call. Patricia, Sharon, and Linda were all on the line. "Vincent found the heaters on Craigslist," Sharon said without preamble. I explained what I'd discovered, reading out the listing details. Patricia was silent for a long moment after I finished. "Did anyone respond to the listing?" she asked finally. "I don't know. It's still posted, which might mean they haven't sold yet. The asking price is $800, which is well below retail. If he gets that, he's basically pocketed $800 of equipment I donated." "This is theft," Linda said. "This is absolutely theft." "I'm calling the police," Patricia said. "This is beyond HOA business now. This is criminal." "Good," I said. Do you want me to send you the screenshots? Yes, and don't contact the seller. Let the police handle it. I wasn't planning to, but I want to be informed about what happens. This is my property. I'll keep you updated, Patricia promised. Vincent, I'm truly sorry. When I came to your door this morning, I had no idea this situation existed. I know, just get my heaters back. The next morning, Friday, I got a call from a Detective Maria Gonzalez with the Phoenix Police Department. She had a brisk, professional manner that was oddly reassuring. Mr. Donnelly, I understand you've identified property that was stolen from you. I walked her through the entire timeline. The donation, the confirmation, the discovery that the heaters were missing, and finally finding them on Craigslist. Detective Gonzalez asked detailed questions and requested that I email all documentation to her. The HOA president also filed a report about embezzlement, she asked. That's my understanding. Apparently Derek Thompson, the facilities manager, was using HOA funds inappropriately. Then he had access to the equipment closet where my heaters were stored, and now they are on Craigslist under his initials. It's a pretty clear pattern. I'm going to contact the seller and arrange a meeting. These stings are usually straightforward. If the heaters have your donation labels on them, that's solid evidence. What happens to Derek? If we can prove he stole the heaters, he'll be arrested and charged with theft. Given the value, it would be a Class 5 felony in Arizona, since the property is worth over $1,000. He could face up to 2.5 years in prison, though first offenders usually get lighter sentences. And the HOA embezzlement, that's separate but related. The HOA would need to provide documentation of the unauthorized expenses. That could be additional charges. After hanging up with Detective Gonzalez, I felt a strange mix of vindication and disappointment. I'd just been trying to help the community, and instead I'd gotten pulled into a criminal investigation. Saturday arrived, and I debated whether to attend the HOA meeting. Part of me wanted to stay home and avoid the drama, but another part wanted to see how Patricia explained the situation to the other residents. The meeting was scheduled for 6 in the evening. When I arrived at the community center, I found about 40 residents gathered, most of them bundled in jackets. True to the original problem, the building was cold. Someone had brought a few small space heaters, but they barely made a dent in the chill. Patricia called the meeting to order, her voice tight with stress. She began with standard business, reviewing the budget and discussing upcoming landscaping projects. But I could see residents shifting impatiently. Everyone wanted to know why the building was freezing. Finally, someone raised their hand. Patricia, what's going on with the heating system, and why don't we have any backup heaters? I thought we had equipment for situations like this. Patricia set down her notes. That's actually something I need to address. We've discovered a serious situation regarding HOA property and finances. The room went quiet. Patricia took a breath and laid it out. The discovery that donated equipment was missing, the evidence pointing to Derek Thompson. The police investigation now underway. Residents erupted with questions and comments. Several people remembered donating items or money and now wondered if those donations had been properly recorded. Others expressed shock that someone in a position of trust would steal from the community. I raised my hand, and Patricia nodded at me. I'm Vincent Donnelly, the person who donated the heaters that went missing. I just want to say that Patricia and the current board have been cooperative in investigating this. They didn't know about the theft until I brought it to their attention, and they immediately involved law enforcement. While the situation is frustrating, I think they're handling it appropriately now. Several heads nodded. Patricia shot me a grateful look. An older man in the back stood up. What kind of oversight do we have for board members? How did someone steal HOA property without anyone noticing? Patricia's expression turned grim. That's a fair question. Our previous secretary, Barbara Chen, left suddenly, and some transition items weren't completed properly. Derek Thompson stopped participating in board activities around the same time, which we now believe was connected to the theft. Moving forward, we're implementing new procedures. All donations will be photographed and logged immediately. Equipment inventories will be conducted monthly, and we're establishing a secondary review process for all financial transactions. The meeting continued for another hour, with residents offering suggestions and voicing concerns. By the end, there was a general consensus that the HOA needed better accountability measures, but also recognition that the current board had acted in good faith. As people filed out into the cold night, Patricia approached me. "Thank you for what you said," she told me. "You didn't have to do that." "You're doing your job," I said. "It's not your fault your predecessor and your facilities manager were both problematic. Still, I appreciate it." Sharon joined us, her phone in her hand. "Detective Gonzalez just texted me. They're executing the sting tomorrow afternoon." My pulse quickened. That fast? Apparently Derek responded to a message from an undercover officer pretending to be interested in buying the heaters. "They're meeting at a parking lot in Scottsdale at 2 p.m. "Can we be there?" I asked. Sharon shook her head. She said absolutely not. They don't want to spook him, but she promised to call us immediately after. The next day, Sunday, was an exercise in patience. I tried to work on a home improvement project, but I kept checking my phone every 5 minutes. Finally, at 3 p.m., my phone rang. "Mr. Donnelly. This is Detective Gonzalez. We have Derek Thompson in custody." Relief flooded through me. "Did he have the heaters?" "He did. All 3 units, loaded in his truck, ready to sell. And all 3 still have your donation labels attached." He tried to claim he bought them legitimately, but when we pointed out the labels indicating they were donations to the HOA, he changed his story. Now he's saying it was a misunderstanding, that he thought he was authorized to sell surplus equipment. That's ridiculous. We know. Especially since we also found documentation on his phone showing he knew exactly what he was doing. Text messages with someone discussing selling HOA property. We're still investigating whether that person was involved or just knew what he was planning. What happens now? He's being processed and charged with felony theft. His arraignment will be Monday or Tuesday. You'll need to provide a victim statement. The heaters will be held as evidence initially, but they'll be returned to you eventually. How long is eventually? Depends on whether he pleads guilty or goes to trial. If he pleads, could be a few weeks. If it goes to trial, could be months. I thanked Detective Gonzalez and immediately called Patricia to update her. She was enormously relieved. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting tonight," she said. "We need to discuss how to prevent this from ever happening again. Would you be willing to attend? I think having your perspective would be valuable." That evening, I sat in Patricia's living room with the full HOA board, which included Patricia, Sharon, Linda, and 2 other members I'd seen at meetings but never really talked to. Robert Jensen, the treasurer, and Thomas Kim, who handled architectural reviews. "This has been a nightmare," Patricia began, "and it's exposed serious weaknesses in how we operate. I want to use this as an opportunity to completely overhaul our procedures." Robert pulled out a laptop. "I've been reviewing our financial controls." Derek was able to charge personal expenses to the HOA credit card because he had access to it for legitimate purchases. There was no secondary approval process. "Why not?" I asked. "Because we're volunteers doing this in our spare time," Robert said tiredly. It's supposed to be a small community organization, not a Fortune 500 company. We trusted each other. Trust is good, I said, but verification is better. Thomas nodded. Vincent's right. We need checks and balances. No one person should have unilateral control over money or property. For the next 2 hours, we hammered out new policies. All purchases over $100 would require dual approval. Equipment donations would be photographed, labeled, and logged in a database accessible to all board members. Monthly inventory checks would be mandatory. Financial statements would be reviewed by an outside accountant quarterly. This is a lot of extra work, Linda said, not complaining but acknowledging reality. Then maybe we need more board members, Sharon suggested, or we need to actually pay for some professional management services. Patricia looked uncomfortable. That would increase HOA dues. So would another theft, I pointed out, or a lawsuit if someone claims we mismanaged their donations. Vincent has a point, Thomas said. We're managing a community of 200 homes. That's not trivial. Maybe it's time to admit we need professional help. The conversation shifted to the practical aspects of hiring a management company. Robert promised to get quotes from 3 firms. Patricia agreed to poll the residents about whether they'd accept a dues increase to fund professional management. As the meeting wrapped up, Patricia walked me to the door. I know this whole situation has been frustrating for you, she said. I want you to know that the board is voting to reimburse you the full $1,200, regardless of whether we recover the heaters. I was surprised. That's not necessary. The police recovered them. But you won't have access to them for weeks or months while they're evidence, and you donated them in good faith. It's the right thing to do. What if Derek is ordered to pay restitution? Then it goes back to the HOA general fund. But you shouldn't be out of pocket because of our failures. I accepted with gratitude. It wasn't about the money at this point, but the gesture mattered. Derek Thompson's arraignment happened on Tuesday. I didn't attend, but Detective Gonzalez called me with an update. Derek had pleaded not guilty, and his attorney was arguing for a plea deal. The prosecutor was willing to consider it, given Derek's lack of a serious criminal record, but wanted Derek to make full restitution and accept probation with community service. What about jail time? I asked. Probably not, unless he refuses the plea deal and is convicted at trial. For a first-time non-violent property crime, judges usually go with probation. I wasn't thrilled about that, but I understood the reality of the criminal justice system. Prisons were overcrowded, and first-time offenders often got lighter sentences. The HOA situation, meanwhile, was evolving rapidly. Patricia sent out a community-wide survey about professional management, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. Apparently, many residents had been frustrated with the board's disorganization, but hadn't known how to voice it constructively. Robert got quotes from 3 management companies. The costs ranged from $6,000 to $10,000 annually, which would translate to a dues increase of about $3 to $5 per month per household. When Patricia presented these numbers at a special meeting in February, the vote to hire a management company passed with an 85% approval rate. In early March, I got a call from the prosecutor's office. Derek Thompson had accepted a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to theft and embezzlement, receiving 3 years of supervised probation, 200 hours of community service, and an order to pay full restitution to both me and the HOA. The restitution is $1,200 to you for the heaters and approximately $3,000 to the HOA for the misappropriated funds, the prosecutor explained. He'll make payments on a court-ordered schedule. What if he doesn't pay? Then his probation is violated and he can be sent to jail. Most people comply because they don't want that hanging over them. 2 weeks later, Detective Gonzalez called to let me know I could pick up the heaters from the police evidence facility. I drove to the nondescript building on a Thursday afternoon and signed a mountain of paperwork. Finally, a clerk wheeled out 3 boxes containing my heaters. "All accounted for?" she asked. I checked each unit. They looked exactly as they had when I'd purchased them, donation labels still intact. "All here." That evening, I loaded the heaters into my truck and drove them to the community center. Patricia met me there, along with the new professional manager, a competent woman named Rachel Foster who had 15 years of experience managing HOA communities. "You're sure you want to donate these again?" Patricia asked. "After everything that happened, no one would blame you for keeping them." "That's exactly why I'm donating them again," I said. "I'm not going to let one person's bad actions stop me from contributing to the community. Besides, you've fixed the problems. Rachel's already implemented an inventory system, right?" Rachel nodded, holding up a tablet. "Every piece of equipment is photographed and entered into a database. I've already got entries prepared for these heaters. Once we bring them inside, I'll take photos, assign them inventory numbers, and log them. You'll get an official donation receipt for your taxes, and the items will be tracked monthly." We carried the heaters inside and Rachel went through her process, which was impressively thorough. Within 15 minutes, the heaters were officially logged, stored, and documented. "There," Rachel said with satisfaction. "If anyone ever questions where these are, I can pull up the complete chain of custody in about 10 seconds. Patricia looked at me. "The HOA board wanted me to present you with this." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $1,200, along with a formal letter thanking me for my donation and apologizing for the mishandling of the original contribution. "We know you already have the heaters back," Patricia said, "but the board voted unanimously that you should receive the reimbursement anyway. Consider it a thank you for forcing us to fix our systems." I tried to protest, but Patricia held up her hand. "It's already approved and budgeted." And honestly, Vincent, your persistence exposed a problem that could have gotten much worse. Derek might have stolen more. The lack of oversight might have led to other issues. You did the community a service. I accepted the check, feeling oddly emotional. What had started as a simple donation and turned into a frustrating ordeal had somehow come full circle. Over the following months, the changes in the HOA became increasingly apparent. Rachel proved to be an excellent manager, bringing organization and professionalism to what had been a well-meaning but chaotic volunteer operation. The board meetings became more efficient. Communication improved. Residents actually started reading the HOA newsletters because they contained useful, accurate information. In May, Derek Thompson made his first restitution payment. I received a check for $100, which the court had determined was his monthly obligation until the full amount was paid. It would take him a year to pay off what he owed me, and 2.5 years to pay off the HOA, but at least he was complying. The community center's heating system was finally repaired in February, but during a surprisingly cool evening in March, the system struggled. Rachel simply walked to the equipment closet, retrieved one of my donated heaters, and set it up. The device worked perfectly, keeping the space comfortable for the monthly game night. I attended that game night, something I hadn't done in months. As I sat playing board games with neighbors, I overheard conversations about the HOA. "Have you noticed how much better things are running?" someone said. "Rachel is amazing," another person agreed. "I actually know where my dues are going now." "Remember that whole thing with Derek and the stolen heaters?" a third person chimed in. Can you believe that happened? I kept quiet, not wanting to draw attention to my role in the situation. But Sharon, who was sitting across from me playing Settlers of Catan, caught my eye and smiled. Later, as the game night wound down, Patricia approached me. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" she asked. We stepped outside into the pleasant spring evening. Patricia seemed hesitant, which was unusual for her. "I wanted to apologize again," she said, "for how I approached you back in January. I came to your door with an attitude of entitlement, demanding you loan property to the HOA without any consideration for what you'd already contributed. It was inappropriate." "You didn't know about the donation," I said. "I should have known. That's my point. I was president of this board and I didn't know what donations had been made or where our equipment was. That's inexcusable. You had every right to be angry." "I was angry," I admitted, "but you fixed it. You could have gotten defensive and refused to investigate. Instead, you took responsibility and made changes. That matters." Patricia smiled. "Rachel told me you've been consulting with her about potential equipment needs. Something about upgrading the community center's sound system." I shrugged. "It's a good space, but the audio is terrible." "I was just asking about what it would take to improve it. Are you thinking of making another donation? Maybe. I'm still deciding." "Whatever you decide, I want you to know the board would appreciate it, and this time I guarantee it will be properly documented and secured." "I know it will be. That's why I'm considering it." In June, I did end up donating a sound system to the community center. It cost me about $1,500, but I'd gotten a bonus at work and felt like giving back. This time, the process was seamless. Rachel handled all the documentation, sent me a proper receipt for tax purposes, and even organized a small thank you event where the board formally acknowledged the donation. But the real satisfaction came from seeing the system in use. The community center started hosting more events because the audio quality made them more enjoyable. Movie nights had better sound. Meeting presentations were clearer. Even the monthly board meetings benefited from having working microphones. One evening in July, I was sitting on my patio with a cold beer, enjoying the dry desert heat when my phone rang. It was Detective Gonzalez. "Mr. Donnelly, I wanted to give you an update on the Thompson case. His probation is going well. He's made all his required payments, completed 50 hours of his community service, and by all accounts is complying with the terms of his sentence." "That's good, I guess." "It is good. The goal of the justice system isn't just punishment, it's rehabilitation. Sometimes people make bad choices, and if they can learn from those choices and make amends, that's a positive outcome." "You know why he did it? Did he ever explain?" Detective Gonzalez paused. "I probably shouldn't share this, but since the case is closed, I will. He was going through a divorce and had significant financial pressure. He made poor choices because he felt desperate. It doesn't excuse what he did, but it explains it. And from what I understand, he's getting his life back together." After hanging up, I thought about that. It would have been easy to view Derek as simply a bad person who deserved harsh punishment, but life was more complicated. People made mistakes. Sometimes those mistakes hurt others. The question was whether they learned and grew from those mistakes. I hoped Derek was learning. I hoped the experience had taught him about consequences and responsibility. And I hoped the HOA had learned, too, about the importance of oversight and accountability. As summer turned into fall, the Sagebrush Hills community continued to thrive. The new management system was working well. The board was functional and organized. Residents were more engaged and satisfied. In October, Patricia announced she wouldn't be running for re-election as HOA president. She'd served 2 terms and felt it was time for new leadership. At the November meeting, Sharon Wu was elected as the new president. In her acceptance speech, she talked about building on the improvements made over the past year and continuing to strengthen the community. During that same meeting, Sharon called me to the front. "Vincent Donnelly has been an exemplary member of our community," she said. "His donations have improved our facilities, and his persistence in investigating the theft of HOA property led to important reforms. The board would like to present him with the Community Service Award." I was genuinely surprised. I walked to the front as residents applauded and Sharon handed me a plaque. It was a simple wooden rectangle with an engraved plate, but it felt significant. "Thank you," I said, holding the plaque awkwardly. "I didn't do anything extraordinary. I just wanted to help and expected basic accountability. I'm glad we've built systems that provide that accountability now." "That's exactly why this matters," Sharon said. "You set a standard and held us to it. That's what community is about." As I returned to my seat, I reflected on the journey. It had started with a simple desire to contribute, turned into a frustrating experience of theft and mismanagement, and ultimately resulted in positive change. The 3 heaters that had caused so much trouble were now being used exactly as intended, keeping the community center comfortable during temperature extremes. The sound system was enhancing events, and the HOA itself was functioning better than ever. In December, exactly 1 year after Derek Thompson had posted the stolen heaters on Craigslist, I received the final restitution payment. 12 checks of $100 each, totaling the $1,200 he'd effectively stolen. I deposited the check and then wrote a check of my own, donating the full amount back to the HOA's general fund. I sent the donation with a note, "For future community improvements, in memory of 3 heaters that taught us all valuable lessons about trust and accountability." Rachel called me after receiving the donation. "You're really giving this back. I got reimbursed by the HOA originally, remember? And Derek paid me back, so I effectively got paid twice for the same heaters. It doesn't feel right to keep both amounts. Most people would keep it." I'm not most people. And honestly, the community has given me more than money. It's given me neighbors who care, facilities that bring us together, and a renewed faith that when systems break, good people can fix them. Rachel laughed. "You're either a saint or crazy. Probably a little of both." As December progressed, and the year drew to a close, I found myself thinking about the entire experience. What had started with Patricia Henderson banging on my door, demanding I loan my portable heater, had transformed into something much larger. It had exposed problems, forced difficult conversations, and ultimately made the community stronger. The 3 heaters I'd donated were still working perfectly, stored in the equipment closet under Rachel's careful inventory control. They'd been used dozens of times throughout the year, providing warmth when needed and serving as a reminder of the importance of proper stewardship. I saw Derek Thompson once, completely by accident, at a grocery store in early January. We made eye contact across the produce section, and for a moment I wasn't sure what would happen. Then he nodded slightly, an acknowledgement of recognition and perhaps regret, and moved on. I did the same. There was nothing to say. He'd made his restitution. The system had worked. Life moved forward. On a cool evening in late January, almost exactly a year after the original confrontation, the community center hosted a winter festival. The heating system was working fine, but Rachel had set up one of the donated heaters near the entrance where cold air blew in every time the door opened. I stood near that heater for a while, warming my hands, watching my neighbors laugh and talk and enjoy the space. Patricia approached, bundled in a heavy coat despite being indoors. "Thinking about the journey?" she asked. "Something like that. It's been quite a year." "That it has." You know, I learned more about leadership from this situation than from anything else in my 2 terms as president. I learned that good intentions aren't enough. You need systems and accountability. You need to listen when someone raises concerns, even if it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Those are valuable lessons. They are, and I have you to thank for teaching them to me, even though I resisted at first. I gestured toward the heater. Well, at least something good came from 3 missing heaters and 1 very cold HOA meeting. Patricia laughed. The coldest meeting in Sagebrush Hills history. We'll never forget it. As the evening continued, I mingled with neighbors, enjoyed hot chocolate and cookies, and watched children play games organized by volunteers. This was what community was supposed to be. Not perfect, not without problems, but functioning. People working together, supporting each other, holding each other accountable. Later that night, sitting in my living room, I pulled out the Community Service Award plaque Sharon had given me. I found a spot for it on my bookshelf, between a photo of my parents and a small cactus sculpture I'd bought at a local art fair. The plaque represented more than recognition. It represented the entire journey, the frustration of discovering theft, the determination to pursue accountability, the satisfaction of seeing systems improve, and ultimately, the reward of knowing that a community could face a crisis and come out stronger. My phone buzzed with a text from Sharon. Board meeting next week. Rachel has proposals for expanding the community center's programming. Would love your input if you're interested in attending. I typed back, I'll be there. Because that's what community meant, showing up, contributing, holding people accountable, and trusting that when things went wrong, good people would work together to make them right. The 3 portable heaters I'd donated continued to serve their purpose, providing warmth when needed and standing as silent testimony to the importance of transparency, accountability, and persistence. They were just heaters, metal and heating elements and electrical components. But they'd become symbols of something larger. Every time I walked into the community center and saw one of those heaters, I remembered Patricia standing on my doorstep, demanding I loan my personal property without knowing I'd already given so much. I remembered the confusion and anger of discovering the theft. I remembered the satisfaction of finding the Craigslist listing. I remembered the vindication of Derek's arrest and the subsequent reforms. But mostly, I remembered the lesson that resonated through the entire experience. Communities are built by people who care enough to demand better, who persist when things go wrong, and who continue contributing even after being disappointed. As winter settled over Phoenix, with its mild temperatures and clear skies, I felt grateful for the journey. Not because it had been easy or pleasant, but because it had been real and meaningful and ultimately transformative. The Sagebrush Hills HOA was no longer just a bureaucratic necessity, a set of rules and fees to be endured. It was a functioning community organization, professionally managed, properly accountable, and genuinely serving the residents it represented. And 3 portable heaters, originally purchased for $400 each, had played an unlikely but crucial role in making that transformation happen. Sometimes the most important changes come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes a demand for accountability over a missing donation leads to systemic reform. Sometimes 3 heaters can teach a community about trust, transparency, and the importance of doing things right. As I turned off the lights and headed to bed that night, I felt content. The story that had begun with anger and frustration had ended with positive change and community strengthening. Derek Thompson had paid his debt. The HOA had reformed its practices. The community center had better equipment and better management. And I had learned that persistence in pursuit of accountability wasn't about being difficult or confrontational. It was about caring enough to demand that systems work properly, that donations are respected, and that trust is earned through transparency and proper stewardship. The 3 heaters were where they belonged, serving the community as originally intended. And I was where I belonged too, part of a neighborhood that had faced a challenge and emerged stronger for it. That was worth far more than $1,200.